This is our minor league baseball room. This is tells about the history of minor league baseball in Jackson. And this desk used to be Con Maloney's desk when he owned the Jackson Mets, and then the Jackson Generals and the Jackson Senators. And so I covered all those teams. And I'm proud of that history. Of course, we have the Mississippi Braves now that will someday be part of this, I'm sure. You know, I thought Mike would live a lot longer, and he did such a wonderful job. You know, we were competitors at one time. I mean, he was a very good newsman for WLBT. I mean, he was competition for, you know, we were all trying to break the same stories, and Michael was one of the best in the world at it. So he was competition, but it was friendly competition. Sometimes he'd buy me a beer when he beat me on a story, and I'd buy him one when I beat him on a story. But you know, he and I worked on a lot of projects together. I mean, we were in from day one before this building was a reality, in the planning stages and trying to enlist support for a Hall of Fame museum to honor something that both of us thought that Mississippi does extremely well. I was happened to be at the first game he played in at Southern Miss. He was a 17-year-old unknown kid out of Kill, Mississippi that they signed as an afterthought. He wasn't even supposed to, I mean, he wasn't one of the main guys they signed. And he came off the bench in the second half against Tulane and led them from 2 touchdowns down to victory. My favorite story about Brett, though, was a pass. I happened to be covering a game at East Carolina, and Southern was behind late, and he threw a 45-yard pass that the receiver said he heard coming at him, that the ball was coming so fast that the laces turning in the breeze were making a noise that he could hear above the crowd.
Do you think people in Mississippi understand just the sports heritage? Do you think people get it?
Well, I think it's a generational thing. I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that the younger generation now and the younger generations that follow understand it. Because, you know, like, to me, I covered Walter Payton when he was in high school at Columbia High. But, a 10-year-old today doesn't remember Walter Payton being alive. So, yeah, I mean, I think we need to teach that important part of our history to this youngest generation, and then every generation that follows. It's just like this museum can tell me a lot about people I didn't know, like Cool Papa Bell. And I think that should go on from generation to generation. I grew up in Hattiesburg. Dizzy Dean was from Wiggins, which is about 25 miles south, or 30 miles south of Hattiesburg, and I grew up watching the Saturday game of the week on CBS, and with him and Pee Wee Reese doing the games, and my dad was actually good friends with Dizzy Dean, so I got to know him, and I remember going to his funeral in Wiggins at the First Baptist Church of Wiggins, and the two people who sat right in front of my daddy and me were Bear Bryant and Johnny Vaught. He's as classy a human being, not just athlete, as anybody I've ever known. I'll never forget when it's late in his career and he was playing for the Minnesota Vikings, and they weren't any good, and he wasn't even the starter, but he came off the bench and had a great fourth quarter and almost led them to victory, and I wrote a column about it in the next day's paper, and my phone rang later that afternoon, and it was Archie calling from Minneapolis to thank me for writing a column. And I can tell you that in 46 years of sports writing, that hasn't happened very often. They've had me for the last few days, my last few days at the newspaper, recounting some of my best memories that I covered during my career. And the beauty of it is I can come here and push a button and see those things happen again. like, Ray Guy's 93-yard punt against Ole Miss, Mississippi State's goal line stand against Alabama when they beat them 6-3. Punch a button and see Archie Manning rolling out to his left and throwing back across the field. I can see the wind-blown kick, Artie Cosby's kick, that against Ole Miss that got to the uprights and then blew up and blew back. I can see Sammy Winder take off from the 4-yard line and dive 3 yards into the end zone at Memorial Stadium. And that's what I love so much about this. And the other thing about it for me personally is I can go out there and push a button and see my dad, who's been dead for 16 years, talking to me. That's pretty cool.